The servant door clicks shut behind her like a punctuation mark in a quiet life no one ever reads. Maria wipes her hands on her apron, the same motion she's made 1,000 times. One careful, efficient movement learned from years of keeping other people's worlds in order. Outside, the penthouse is glass and light and impossible angles. Inside, it is the kingdom of Henry Blackwell, tech magnate, philanthropist, and the kind of man who collects accolades like others collect postage stamps. Tonight, he throws a party for himself and his success. Tonight, he will make a private joke. He finds her in the kitchen. Maria is humming softly as she arranges coffee cups, her back steady, eyes kind. Henry leans against the counter with the confidence of someone who has never been interrupted. He watches her a beat, then grins. "Maria," he says, loud enough that she turns. "You ever play chess?" She blinks, surprised. "Chess, sir? No. I brush crumbs off your guest's shoulders." "I don't." He laughs, a short, private sound. "Come with me. I want to teach you something." The chessboard sits in his study, a lacquered thing that costs more than most people's cars. Henry sets it out like a prop, like a stage for his amusement. He arranges the pieces with that exacting hand of a man who controls everything in his life. Guests drift in and out of the doorway, their laughter muffled by the thick glass of the building. Henry calls for another drink, then gestures at the chair opposite. "Play me," he says. "Teach me something about resilience, Maria. I always say I like surprises." There is a murmur in the background, a tiny audience gathering. Maria hesitates. She has never sat in that chair. She has never been the center of anyone's attention in that way. But she also knows a joke when she sees one. He expects her to sit and be charmingly bad, to giggle, to defer. So she sits. The first move is Henry's, a cavalier opening, as showy as it is predictable. He smiles at the onlookers. "You'll find I'm quick," he says. He pushes a pawn forward with theatrical flair. Maria studies the pieces. They are glass, heavy beneath her fingertips. The board is simple, geometry and contrast. She has seen chess before. Years ago, a boy on a bus with a bent corner of his notebook, an old man in a park with hands that smelled of tobacco teaching children how to think 3 moves ahead. She learned not from congratulatory lessons, but from necessity. In her small hometown, chess was a way to keep the mind sharp when the rest of life was chaos. She touches a knight and moves it with a small, practiced economy. It isn't flamboyant. It is careful. The air in the study changes. Henry's smile doesn't falter at first. Then, little by little, the laughter thins. The guests lean forward. A piece disappears. Another and another. Henry's face moves through surprise to irritation, to a kind of focused anger he isn't used to directing at a board. "You're good," he says, as if it is an accusation. Maria looks up. "I play sometimes," she says simply. Her accent is soft. She wears ordinary words the way she wears her uniform, without ornament. "Not much. My brothers. One of them taught me when I was a child." "Your brothers?" Henry repeats, almost incredulous. She doesn't elaborate. They play late into the night. As the game progresses, small stories spill out like crumbs. Henry teases her, tells stories about IPOs and yacht races. Maria speaks of grocery lists and the lullabies her mother used to hum. At one point, Henry asks a guest to grab his phone to record. "This will make a great story," he says. "A humble maid beats the billionaire. It's viral." But the thing about being underestimated is that it removes a kind of pressure. Maria plays. She sees patterns, sacrifices where others see loss, patience where others see weakness. Henry's moves are fast and intentional. His ego demands victory. But chess, she learned long ago, is not only about the pieces you take. It's about predicting what your opponent wants you to do and refusing to give them that satisfaction. When he finally realizes he has no graceful exit, Henry laughs, loud and a little hollow. "All right," he says. "You win." The crowd applauds. Maria stands, hands braced against the chair. Her breath is steady. She accepts the applause with a small nod and returns to the kitchen, the way she always goes back to work. The joke, for Henry's guests, is over. For Henry, it's only beginning. The next morning, a video of the match, posted by a guest, surfaces on social media. It's 2 minutes long, a shot of the glossy board, a tilt toward Henry's face when he realizes, and Maria's composed expression as she moves the final piece. The comments ping in like rain. Some laugh, some mock, others, more quietly, admire. Henry is furious. The thought of being laughed at for his money riles him. He demands to know who posted it. He deletes, he recriminates. "That was private," he tells his staff with the force of a man accustomed to secrecy. "We will make sure it never goes any further." But the internet keeps its own counsel. The clip stutters across feeds and platforms. Opinions form. People begin to notice not just the man who lost, but the woman who won. A few messages arrive at Henry's office. Chess clubs, local papers, a woman in a nearby university who recognizes a rare flair in Maria's positional play. They ask, who is she? Where did she learn? Could she possibly? Henry summons Maria. He wants names, explanations, to contain the embarrassment by understanding its source. He imagines revealing some tiny secret, a family friend, a privileged tutor. He wants to rewrite the narrative. He expects something humble and compliant. Maria arrives in her uniform, palms carrying the rhythm of her life. She is quiet, composed. Henry studies her face as if it belongs to a graph he must decode. "Tell me about the opening you used," he says. "How did you find my weakness so quickly?" She tells the truth. "I watch people," she says. "I learned by watching how they move when they are sure about themselves. When someone tries to make a joke and set a stage for themselves, their pride makes them predictable." Henry blinks. He is oddly pleased and unsettled. He offers her a perk at first, maybe more shifts, perhaps a bonus, gestures of benevolence that are easy and impersonal. But Maria thanks him and leaves. Word keeps moving. A local chess teacher, passing through Henry's social circle, asks if Maria would play in a charity exhibition. Henry, still smarting, agrees publicly. He will host the event, he declares, and invites her to play. The charity angle gives him control. It frames the upcoming game as a civic good. He thinks the narrative bends back to him. He is the host, the magnanimous billionaire, and Maria is the novelty. The day of the exhibition, the hall is full. Cameras line the stage like black teeth. Maria arrives with a brown paper bag clutched to her chest. Inside, a sandwich, a little coin purse, the small things a person carries when their life is built on small certainties. Henry watches from the front row. He expects again to be amused. But the spectators are not all laughing. There are children from the community who came free on passes Henry provided, a few chess teachers, and a woman in a navy blazer whose eyes scan the board like a surgeon. Maria plays athlete's calm. She moves pieces not to please anyone but to make the right choices. The game unfolds like armor being removed piece by piece. Halfway through, a young boy in the crowd calls out, "Can she play two at once?" The question ripples, a new challenge. Henry rises, eyebrows raised. "Why not?" he says. "Maria, you up for it?" She accepts. Against chess masters and amateurs alike, Maria plays simultaneously, her mind threading through each board's possibilities. She whispers small instructions to herself, keeps time in her head, makes sacrifices that sting but win. The audience watches, breath held. Someone uploads a half-hour stream, and the internet takes notice again, this time not as a one-off joke but as something deeper. People begin to ask, how did a woman who cleans mansions develop this level of intuition? A thread appears. People tag chess communities and universities. One of them is a recruiter from the National Youth Program. They ask to meet Maria. The offer is awkward. They want to provide training, to enroll her in competitions, to see if her foundational skill can be refined into elite play. Henry, who still hears laughter in his memory, steps in. He wants to manage the story. He offers to sponsor her, coaches, travel, equipment. They want to send her to regional championships. Maria considers it like anyone would consider a door opening. Her life has been practical. A rent due, a little sister who needs tutoring, a father who widens his smile when she brings home extra cash. There are commitments that weigh like stones in a pocket. But Henry's offer disrupts the immediate present of bills and grocery lists. He insists she must accept, as if control could be purchased with good intentions. She accepts, but on her own terms. "If I go," she tells him later, "I go because I want to, not because it's made for you to look good." Henry nods. It's a small rebuke. He learns that generosity without respect is hollow. He also learns what genuine humility looks like, not theatrical, but quiet and steady. He arranges the logistics. He meets with coaches, signs checks, and in doing so, becomes a patron in a way he never imagined, not to be seen, but to be useful. Maria's world expands. She travels for the first time in a plane that hums like a new life. Coaches introduce her to openings she never knew had names. They give her books that smell of paper and possibility. She plays tournaments in smoky hotel basements and community centers, her face unfazed by new surroundings. Her reputation grows. She wins matches not because she is lucky, but because she sees what others refuse to look at, the human angle of the game. Opponents assume she will be intimidated by the bright rooms and the men in suits. Instead, she reads their faces like cards and rearranges outcomes accordingly. Articles call her a prodigy, others call her an underdog. Managers and sponsors offer deals. Henry declines some of them quietly. "Let us not forget why this matters," he tells her. "You are the one doing the work." There is a moment at a regional final when everything tightens to a single breath. Maria is down a piece. Her opponent is the kind of studious player who never lets emotion leak. A camera hovers close. Spectators whisper. Maria touches the pawn and sees, suddenly and clearly, a path, one that requires losing another piece to force a checkmate 3 moves later. It's a sacrifice that looks foolish unless you trust the sequence. She sacrifices. The move is surgical. The room releases its breath as if by agreement. Her opponent blinks and loses a queen in a crossfire of consequences. Maria stands, not triumphant in the way Henry thought she would be, but with the serene satisfaction of someone who has done what she came to do. When she returns to New York months later, people recognize her on the street. Children ask for autographs. Henry meets her at the same door where he once invited her to play as a joke. He has changed in ways the tabloids did not notice. The joke was a mirror. It showed him a part of himself he hadn't seen clearly, a hunger for spectacle and the arrogance to expect amusement. He has learned to be quieter, to let deeds speak. "How much did it cost?" he asks once, his voice softer than before. "All of it. The travel, the coaching." Maria smiles. "Not as much as the value," she says. "But you paid." He looks at her, searching for the sting of gratitude he had expected. Instead, he finds something steadier. "Will you keep playing?" he asks. "Yes," she says. "But I will also teach. There are kids back in my neighborhood with no one to tell them how to move past a pawn. I want to show them the shape of the world they can build." Henry watches her, then nods. He reaches into his pocket and pulls out a small card, an invitation to a scholarship program he will fund anonymously. "You don't have to accept," he says. She laughs quietly. "I wouldn't," she replies. "But I'll take it for the kids." The story spreads then, but it is no longer the clipped viral moment that began with a joke. It becomes a narrative about talent and dignity. There are op-eds about class and appreciation, profiles on local networks, and, most importantly, children in community centers crowding around makeshift boards learning to see 3 moves ahead. Months later, Henry watches one of those kids, a little girl with fierce eyes, move a bishop like she is shifting the world. Maria sits beside her, patient and exacting, explaining the trade-offs and the small joys of patient strategy. Henry feels the old amusement stretch and resolve into something new. Responsibility, yes, and the quiet pride of a man who finally understands the luxury of being useful. On an ordinary Tuesday, after a charity in which Maria coached 20 kids and Henry quietly paid for chess sets and travel, he finds himself in the kitchen again. The door clicks shut behind him, and he offers no joke, just an invitation. "Play me," he says softly. Maria looks up from the table, flower on her hands, the lines of a life that never stopped while she learned to see. "Again?" "Yes," he says. "This time, no cameras, just the board." She wipes her hands and sits. They move pieces not as spectacle, but as conversation. The game between them is quieter now, a practice of mutual respect. Every so often, Henry glances up and realizes he's not trying to win as much as he is trying to learn. In the end, whether he wins or loses matters less than the fact that he knows now how to listen. And Maria? She keeps playing, keeps teaching children to expect more of themselves than the world expects of them. The joke, when it comes up in conversation years later, is always told with a smile that is not cruel but grateful. It is a story about how a single, small game changed the shape of many lives, because someone finally looked at a woman, not as a performer for their amusement, but as a mind worth noticing.